An army of cleaners looking like intensive care nurses stand by to prepare the train for its onward journey. They greet the passengers with trademark Japanese courtesy before tackling the spotless train. There's no graffiti or vandalism anywhere near a Japanese train. Decades of investment in Japan mean that things not only work, they work exceptionally well. The bullet train lives up to its reputation. Racing through the Japanese countryside, the only blot on the landscape is the landscape itself. Most of the journey seems to be through a sort of urban sprawl, where countryside and town seem barely distinguishable from one another. The glorious Mount Fuji is always behind a lattice of overhead cables, but it's still a little whisper of the beauty that I hope lies ahead. It took my train just 2 hours and 42 minutes to gobble up 513 kilometers. Bang on time, of course. Welcome to Kyoto. Time and again people have said, you've got to go to Kyoto when I asked them about Wabi Sabi. This is the heart of traditional Japan, the old capital until 1868. And this is the Japan of the tea ceremony and the ryokan, the traditional inn. And here I am. And there's a Christmas tree and a station that looks like, I don't know, it looks like a hang-up for the space shuttle. But if Kyoto is capable of spectacularly modern train stations, it's also, as promised, home to the old. For over 1,000 years, Kyoto was Japan's imperial capital, and there are some 2,000 Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines here. Here, I'm hoping to get closer to the spiritual values that underpin the Japanese. This should be Wabi Sabi Central. But arriving at Kiyomizu, one of Kyoto's most celebrated Buddhist temples, my Wabi Sabi-ometer is barely twitching at all. There are just so many people. Say cheese. Cheese. They're doing a brisk trade in good luck charms up here. Here's what we could get. Passing exam, successful study, good health, long life, child, lucky money, happiness, victory for against disaster. That would be a good one. Traffic safety, 500 yen, so that's about 3 quid, cheaper than car insurance. I'm looking for the Find Wabi Sabi charm. These are the love stones. Everyone's touching them. But the idea is that if you can walk from this one to the one over there with your eyes closed, you find your true love. He missed it. He missed it. He missed it. Try again. Try again. Yeah. What can you say? Poor guy's going to get a broken heart. This place is absolutely ravishing. You know, with these old temples and the sunset over Kyoto and the autumn leaves, and there's a smell of incense here. It's really strong. But as spiritual experiences go, you know, this is right up there with Disneyland for me. A downside of the Japanese love of the seasons is that so many tourists have come to Kyoto to enjoy the colourful autumn leaves that there's not a single hotel room available in town. So it's the suburbs for me, and a business hotel in a small town called Kamioka. Well, so this is my room in what is really called the Pony Business Hotel, Kyoto, Japan. And let me show you my room in the Pony Business Hotel. There I've got the manga, given free to the salaryman on the road, the yukata at the end of my bed, and a supply of them over in here, in case I have any friends to stay. And I have to say that after the Awamoto's house, this is a bit desolate and, what's the word, clinical. Could really use a bit of Wabi Sabi. Look at that wall. As a whole, I'd have to say the Pony Business Hotel does have the air of a medium security mental hospital. And I'm not going to be sorry to leave. And I'm going to be pretty glad to get up tomorrow and look at a few temples. I'm in Daitokuji, an area of Buddhist temples that date from the 14th century. This is, in a way, the spiritual home of Wabi Sabi, as it's here that the great tea master, Sen no Rikyu, underwent Zen training and perfected the art of the tea ceremony. The tea ceremony has come up time and time again in my reading and conversations with people. I don't really understand how, but it's supposed to be one of the clearest expressions of Wabi Sabi. So I'm on my way to meet a tea master who gives formal tea ceremony lessons. I'm half imagining it will take place in some exquisite temple tea house, but in fact the tea master works from home. Konnichiwa gozaimasu. Konnichiwa. While I was expecting the tea master to be some sort of elderly sage, he's actually younger than I am. Mr. Kimura, it turns out, is also a big fan of Formula 1, but he's even more passionate about traditional Japanese culture and values. Thank you. Upstairs in his house, he's built his own personal tea room for his students to practice in. It's apparently bigger than the ideal temple tea house, which can be as small as just 2 of the tatami mats that cover this floor. Fingers in. Is that bad?
Yes. This is bad. This is correct.
Why is this bad? You're not trying to be difficult.
揃ってる方がやっぱり美しい。
I knew that the tea ceremony would be intricate and take years to master, but I wasn't prepared for quite this degree of precision. It's a bit like a cross between learning a musical instrument and taking communion.
No.
Anti-clockwise?
Yes.
So the front come to your face again.
Okay.
Yes.
On the other mat.
Outside to the host places.
And look this tea.
Tea was first brought to Japan in the 9th century by Buddhist monks coming from China. They used it as a stimulant to stop trainee monks nodding off during meditation. Later, it was enjoyed for its own sake, and its preparation and serving was gradually refined into this.
Grip here. 3 fingers. Okay. This 3 fingers, but this.
2 spoons.
2 spoons.
I take 3
Yes.
usually, but...
Yeah, 2. Yeah. Okay.
You just did all of them.
Yes. Oh, no. Only once.
Yes.
More high speed. More high speed. Well done.
Thank you. Is the tea ceremony religious? Is it spiritual? Is it meditation? Is it theatre? Is it prayer? Is it performance art? You know, what as a Westerner, how can I understand it?
I don't like the word tea ceremony because I think Japanese traditional tea culture is teaism. Most important thing is philosophy. ある種のこう美しいもの、美とは何か、お互いがお客さんと、ホストとゲストが考える美とは何かっていうのをある種こう一つ宗教的に信じるものをひれきし合う場所でもありますし。
Is Wabi Sabi the same thing as teaism? Is that that sense of beauty that you talk about, is that described by the phrase Wabi Sabi?
最もいい茶会っていうのは何の言葉も交わさず何の会話もしなくてもその空間にみなぎっているもの全てからゲストが感じ取ってそのゲストが感じ取ってくれていることを言葉を掛け合わなくともホストも感じ取ってだからもう何の会話もなく全てを受け取って無言で終えられる茶会が一番いい茶会なんです。
It gets more and more. There are more and more shades of meaning to it as I explore it. It gets, I don't want to say harder and harder to understand, but it gets bigger and bigger in my mind.
まあでもそうどんどん迷っていただくのが一番いいんじゃないですかね。
My tea lesson was fascinating, even if it did sometimes feel a bit like a parody of people's fears about Japan, that everything you're doing is wrong. This is Zen Temple, definitely one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. The garden is supposed to be a masterpiece of Sabi, designed to evoke the seasons and the passing of time. And the monk here spends 4 hours a day keeping it immaculate. But doing the gardening is part of the spiritual practice here, is that right? I mean, it isn't gardening and spiritual practice, gardening itself is a spiritual practice.
もう掃除するときにはもう掃除のみですね。他のことは一切考えないです。
That reminds me of the tea ceremony that Kimura sensei said that when he was making tea, all he thought about was making a good cup of tea. 茶道にしても禅にしても、結局はそのいろんないらないものを排除していって最後に残ったものっていうものを求めていくんですね。そういうところに、お茶と禅というものがくっついて、そこからそういうわびさびという、言葉も出てきたんだと思います。 Can you define Wabi Sabi?
定義ですかね。わびさびの定義。反対に言うとわびさびには定義がなくて定義があるところにはわびさびはないのかもしれません。難しいことなんですけど。
The monk's reluctance to define Wabi Sabi is an expression of a very Buddhist notion that language is inadequate when it comes to trying to understand the world. What he's saying is that in a sense I need to stop looking for Wabi Sabi definitions and let myself be open instead to Wabi Sabi feelings. Later in the evening, walking in Gion, the old quarter of Kyoto, I feel that this is a beautiful and reassuring indication that the world of Wabi Sabi is alive and well. The wooden houses with their paper screens, the delicate lanterns, it all feels for a second like I've travelled back in time. Here there are still working geisha. It's like seeing a rare bird in the jungle. But then I realised that some of these geisha are actually tourists dressed up for a night out. And most of the people here are like me, on a sort of ye olde Japan safari. And I feel I might be a couple of centuries too late to find what I came for. Like the haiku poet Basho, who said, "Even in Kyoto, I long for Kyoto."